Hello, everyone. Welcome back for the first Ask Mark of 2024. We are joined again by the man you all came to hear, Mr. Mark Randolph, co founder of Netflix, all around good guy, and recent UFC championship fighter, Mark Randolph.
Well, thank you, Dan. Happy New Year. Good day to you.
Happy New Year.
Great way to start the year.
Exactly. It's great to see you and great to see everyone chiming in the chat. Of course, as you all know, you're all veterans now. Pop your questions in there. We'll try to get to as many as possible. Mark, in the interest of starting this year off with a bang, should we just get into it?
I think no point in dilly dallying. Sure, let's jump in.
Because I know
Bring
you
it on.
hate talking with me, so we'll cut right to the questions. So actually, right in the chat, I thought we could start off with this. This is from Fizan, who says he read your latest tweet and he found it very helpful. Currently practicing the switch of listening and then defending the strategy, and he wonders if you could dive a little deeper into that. Uh, Specifically, is there something he could do to make that transition smoother?
So first of all, I did all the tweets before I left for the holiday, and scheduled them to come out. So I'm not even sure which tweet that is, which is my first confession that I'm not necessarily live. But Uh, I think what he's talking about is the basic principle of listening, which is this bizarre skill that is so critical these days, because most people, unfortunately, aren't very good at it. They will basically they'll maybe listen to what you say, but almost instantly, what they're doing is starting to formulate how they're going to rebut your arguments. And that might be listening, but it's certainly not hearing. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize is that when you're pitching your ideas to people, when you're trying to get feedback from people, it's important not to be dug in on what your concept is. That you don't necessarily need to do what people say, but it never hurts to make sure you understand their perspective. And I think that's kind of really what I'm trying to say is that don't when go out, talk to people, find out all you can. There a lot of people are going to know a lot more than you do. They have been around before. It doesn't mean they have the answer. You're the only person who really understands all the nuance, who really knows exactly what you're building, who really knows exactly what you're trying to do. So if someone tells you, as they frequently do, that'll never work, you can't take that at face value. If someone says, here's what you should do, you should not take that at face value. But there is that skill of saying, let me understand why they feel that way. Why do I think this will never work? Why do they think I should do it that way? Um, and then integrate that with your own thinking and come up with some independent decision. It's a hard skill. The other thing that I'll say is I as you all know, I do some more in-depth mentoring with a handful of entrepreneurs. I probably can work with 4 or 5 at a time, where I really spend a lot of time trying to understand them, their business, their co-founders, their product, their competitors, all those things. And what I'm looking for in the people that I choose to mentor is largely that skill that I'm talking about right here. As we all know, being an entrepreneur takes unbelievable amounts of self-confidence. And so you really have to believe that even though everyone is telling you that'll never work, that you are going to figure it out. But at the same time, you have to have this ability to listen, to understand that there are other viewpoints, and you have to factor those. You don't have to, that it's beneficial to factor all those viewpoints into your thinking. So I'm looking for people who have that skill, the ability to have the amazing self-confidence that they can make a decision that they're going to solve the problem, but at the same time, able to listen and hear the feedback that other people are giving them.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, love that. And Mark, speaking of listening, we've got someone listening to us right now. A celebrity. She appeared on our show Elevator Pitch. Hello, Miriam. She pitched the No Code game. You may remember that. So great to have you here, Miriam. Yeah, plug away in the chat. Let us know your questions. Here's one we got in before. It's an oldie, but man, we got about 10 variations on this question. It's an oldie but a goodie. This was from Aisha. Mark, what is the best way to raise funds?
Oh, gosh. Uh, I'm laughing not at the question. It's a very legitimate question. I'm laughing because, as Dan said, it's probably the single most frequently asked question in all of entrepreneurship. And I'm going to answer it two ways. Um, the first is you may not need to raise funds. And in fact, raising funds is definitely not for everybody. And I don't mean not for everybody skill wise, I mean not for everybody need wise. It takes a lot of time, it's extremely distractive, it can be very discouraging. Um, and if you are successful in raising funds, it comes with all kinds of obligations that you may not want. You now have the obligation to, you cannot run this business like a lifestyle business. You have an obligation to do everything you can to maximize the return on the investment for your investor. If you have not yet figured out your product market fit, you lose a huge amount of flexibility on the kind of shifts and pivots and swings you can make once you've taken money from someone on the assumption that you're going to be doing a certain thing. And the piece to that is that you usually don't need to, is that too many people think that the only way they can start their business, that they can get their idea going, is by raising money, hiring people to build it, spending lots of money promoting it. And as I've said, just as it's most frequently asked question, this is also the most frequently given answer, is that these days, the key ingredient for being a great entrepreneur is not how good your ideas are, nor how good you are at raising money or any of that stuff. It's how clever you can be at figuring out ways to figure out if your idea is any good without spending any money. So, first piece is, don't think you have to raise money. There's millions of ways, and I've talked about them a lot. You can find it in the archives of my podcast. You can find it by listening to other episodes of Ask Mark about ways that you can validate your concept without money. So I won't repeat them here. But okay, what's the best way to raise money? The best way to raise money is on a continuum where at this end you have, here's what I believe, and at this end you have, here's what the data shows. The closer you can be to here's what shows, the better. And the more you shows, the easier raising money is. The closer you are to I believe, the harder it is. This was not always the case. When we did the initial pitch to raise the initial seed money for Netflix, this was in 1996. So we're talking more than 25 years ago. Back then, yes, you could raise money with a PowerPoint. You could by saying, I believe that eventually, and here's the market and all that mumbo jumbo. But at the same time, that only worked because at the time, I was in my late 30s. I had done 5 startups. Reed had done 2 startups, and he'd already had an IPO. So we had some credibility. These days, that doesn't work anymore. These days, what investors expect you to have done is proven on your own that this idea works, that you've hacked something, you've done something in your spare time, you've worked nights and weekends, you've done validation hacking to demonstrate that I believe is actually true. And you have to take that step. Once you've done that, it is remarkable how much easier it is. Because now when you're reaching out to people to raise money, you're saying, here's what I've found out. There is a market for this. It does cost this amount to acquire customers. Here's how much they're willing to pay. Here's how they churn. Here's how long they stay. Here's my lifetime value. You have all this data. And then what you're raising money for is not, let's see if my idea is any good or not. Then you're trying to raise money to do very, very definitive things like, can I scale my sales? I've proven it works in Silicon Valley. Is it going to work in middle America? I've proven I can do it domestically. Can I do it internationally? I've proven the technology works. Now, can I put this in, productize it? You have to have that first step of gotten past the, is it a good idea or not? That's the easiest way to raise money. I know you may be saying, you're looking for, oh, write to this person. And I'm telling you, that's not it. There's a writer that I follow on TikTok. His name is Michael Jamin. He's a screenwriter. Just did this great TikTok talking about writing scripts. And everyone who asks him, I have this great idea. How do I pitch it to Hollywood? And he goes, no one gives a shit about your idea. What they want to see is a great script. So write the great script. And if you have a great script, it will find its audience. And the same thing goes for a startup idea. I don't want to hear your idea. I want you to demonstrate, start a great company, build a great product, hack it. It does not need to be repeatable or scalable. If you do that, I guarantee you the money will be there.
All right.
Sorry, Dan, a short answer, an oft repeated question deserves a detailed answer.
No, that's great. I love it. I love it. Here's a question that I'm going to answer. So this was from Ajmal. He said, what books do you recommend for first-time founders? I'm going to go ahead and say That Will Never Work by Marc Randolph. That's the book you want to read.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. For first, so you'll get a million different answers for this one, and I'm not going to pitch my own book called That Will Never Work. Available bookstores near you. But what that book is about is not, here's how to build a minimal viable product. Here's how to do validation hacking. That book is not about that. The book is about what it's genuinely like starting a company. It's about how difficult this is. It's about how discouraging it can be, about how fun it can be, and I think if you're a first-time founder, I think those are the valuable things to learn. So my recommendation is not going to be 0 to 1, or it's not going to be, any of these classic, here's how to do it entrepreneur books. I'm going to say Shoe Dog, which is basically the founding of Nike. And in many ways, I modeled my book after that, not because the style of writing was so brilliant, but because it was a very, very true story of what it feels like starting a company. And if you don't know in advance, just before we went live, we were talking about, I guess it wasn't even here. It was a call I had earlier this morning with someone and saying these days, so many people want to be entrepreneurs for reasons that are not the right reasons. They're thinking it's glamorous. They're thinking it's a path to being wealthy or being famous or being powerful, or they don't really understand what you do every day and what it is emotionally for you. And so that's why I say Shoe Dog gives you, my book gives you, I think, a very honest picture of what that's like. And that's the right place to start.
That's great. Well, you kind of answered the next question, which came from Ava. The question was, what do you think are the things to do to become rich?
Oh, I have this idea.
Well,
it sounds disingenuous because, okay, I'm rich. I'll admit it. Because I've had to, I happen to be good at something people are willing to pay a lot for. But it is not like I followed a formula. I was unbelievably lucky. Listen, I did a lot of stuff right, and those are all we talk about here. I try and say, here's some of the patterns I've seen. Here's some of the approaches I've seen work. But for every one person who's followed these approaches, including me, where it works and works big, there's 1,000 people who follow those exact same approaches and it doesn't work, which is why I keep saying if you're in it because you think you're going to be rich, you're wasting your time. because the odds are you won't. If you're in it because you go, this is so fascinating. I love waking up in the morning with this incredibly interesting and compelling puzzle that I want to solve. That's the reason to do it. Because then 10, 20 years from now, looking back, you'll go, I got exactly what I wanted. I went to work every day and I for exactly the right reason, and I was so fulfilled. If you're going to work every day going, one of these days I'm going to be rich, you're going to be 20 years looking back and going, God, what was I thinking? What was I doing? There's no, if you want to be rich, I don't know, go be an investment banker, go be an analyst at an investment bank. Uh, be a doctor or a lawyer, which was what everyone told me when I was growing up. The things where used to be reasonably solid paths to an upper middle class lifestyle. Startups is not the way to do it. Startups is a thing to do if you love solving problems, if you love puzzles, if you have ADHD and every day you want to be doing something different, if you want to sit around a table with really smart, interesting people solving really fun puzzles. This is the life for you. And maybe if you do it really well and everything breaks your way and are extremely lucky, yeah, you'll make a lot of money at it. But it's just really rare. And I never ever stop reminding myself of how fortunate I was that it broke my way, that it was not because I'm some super startup genius. Yeah, I've loved what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at it. And I got really, really lucky.
Pretty good at it. That's the understatement of the century. But love the thoughts there. So let's look ahead. We're in January 2024. We had some questions that came in earlier. Maybe we could do them in one fell swoop. Al wanted to know what you saw as the biggest challenges for 2024. And then Cynthia wanted to know, if you were starting a new business in 2024, what would it be? So I wonder if we can sort of mush those into one delicious Marc burger.
So, one of the things about startup land is it's incredibly volatile. This is not a predictable business where you have these gradual ups and then these gradual downs. Things just change so quickly. So the advice for 2024 is pretty much the same as it is for 2023 and 2022, and it will be in 2025 and 2026, which is don't try and predict the future. Put yourself in a position where you can react to whatever happens, which means you avoid making very extensive fixed cost commitments. Way better to pay a little bit more market rent where it's a monthly expense you can get out of than to go, just think how much I'll save by buying the warehouse. And then you're stuck. And that's a simple analogy, but that thinking applies to so many things. Flexibility is so important, especially when things are volatile. Strike when the iron is hot is another way to deal with volatility. Thinking about raising money and you see a great window for doing it, for God's sake, jump through that window. If you say, in 6 months, I'll be a little stronger, maybe get a little better valuation. Well, in 6 months, who the hell knows what the fundraising environment is going to be like? So be reactive. So what would I do? Gosh, I am so tempted all the time to want to jump back in. And it takes remarkable discipline on my part to not go back full-time into it, because I'm at the point in my life I don't want to do that anymore. So thank you to everyone out there for letting this be my startup methadone, my way of keeping my addiction somewhat at bay. I would plunge into some category which break open pretty aggressively. And before, blockchain has been somewhat discredited because of volatility in crypto, but I still think there's tremendous opportunities in using blockchain to disrupt some pretty established businesses. I'd be tempted to look at that. These are things which have been done. I had a old house that I've had for a long time in New York State, which we just sold yesterday. My God, it's ridiculous. The paperwork, the back and forth, lawyers have to sit. There has got to be a better way. We're about to see the whole damn burst on real estate tech, because the hold that the Realtors Association has on how houses get bought and sold is just about to get broken. I'd be looking for these things which have been locked and held in position by tradition or law or some weird dynamic which has nothing to do with what the customers want. And I'd be looking for that to break open. I'm not so sure that uh, uh, artificial intelligence is going to be the thing that's going to break a ton of things wide open. I see a million things changing. God, it's so crowded right now. I probably wouldn't go in that direction. But that's just me. I'm a little bit, there's huge opportunities there too. It's looking for things of where is the world changing the most rapidly, jump in front of it. Or, now no one's going to know this reference. There's a guy named Bob Hope, huge entertainer, but was interesting and very, very famous entertainer, an extremely wealthy entertainer, but one of the very first people to do something which most modern entertainers now do, which is make more of their money, not from entertaining, but from other things. He made his in real estate. And he was in LA, and he had a very simple rule. He said, I go out to where the houses stop and I buy land.
Huh.
And then the city expands out, and then I go out where the houses stop and I buy land. And I think that's what you've got to do in the startup world too. You've got to go, where is no one doing things because it seems so difficult, but there's huge opportunity? I'm going to buy land out there.
That's great. That's great. I love that. And I'm shocked that you don't like signing your name over and over again like a million times. Most people love that, Marc.
It's just made so difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking and going, are all these things here to make it easier for the consumer to do something? So anyway, and by the way, I do look at the comments, believe it or not. So two quick reactions. One is the name of the script writer that I mentioned is Michael Jamin at Jamin. And it's so funny. If you took all the things he tweets about for the most part and substituted startups for script writing, it would be like word for word. It's so fascinating. And the other one, someone named Susan Cabrera, basically was responding to my sense about being in it for the right reasons. And she had it right on, because she said, if you don't have this very strong why, the Simon Sinek, the importance of why, if you don't have this reason you're getting up every morning and coming to work, you're going to burn out on it. Which is why I keep emphasizing you should be in this for the right reasons. And it's why I try so hard to make sure people stay focused on the things that are gratifying, because there's a lot that's hard. Sorry, done.
That's great. That's great. Well, here's an interesting question that sort of slightly diverges from what we've been talking about, but it's on this topic. This came in earlier from Carlos. How do I know if I'm the right person for my own idea? And I wonder, have you had ideas that you're like, this is a great idea. I have no clue how to do this, so I'm just going to give it to someone else. What do you do with those ideas?
Oh, that's such a great question. And it is absolutely correct. I used to do a lot of work. I still do a lot of work with university and high school aged entrepreneurs, just to kind of get them centered. And one of the exercises we do is let's do some ideation. Let's see if we can come up with some ideas. And we talk a lot about how to find ideas. But I say part of you have to have the right criteria for evaluating whether it's even worth pursuing or not. And one of them is there has to be why you. And I have a lot of entrepreneurs who do things like, I've got this great idea. We're going to do a e-reader, and we're going to have them be solar powered, and we're going to have them distributed in areas of Africa where they don't have access to textbooks, blah, blah, blah. And I go, this is awesome. I go, so I assume you've spent a lot of time in Africa. And they go, no, I've never been there. I go, so I assume you have a lot of experience with early childhood education then? You go, no. How about a lot of understanding of the e-reader business? No. Well, there's a good criteria that this is probably not the right idea for you. You've got to have some foothold in reality that you have some reason and some permission to do this idea. Also, you have to be at the So I'll get those. I have this great idea to build a better MRI machine. Well, MRI machines cost tens of millions of dollars, or I don't know, maybe five. I don't know. Priced out an MRI machine recently, but I know they're extremely expensive. This is not something which someone who is a 22-year-old doing their first startup is going to ever get traction on. So you've got to evaluate, what do I have permission to do? I mean, I'm not saying don't swing big, but if this is your first startup and you're 23 years old and you're 1 year out of a liberal arts BA in English literature, it probably is not the right idea to start a different type of electric car company. So pick ones, something you know, something you have the capacity to get going, something that is in your wheelhouse that you can hack. And if it's not, yes, give it to somebody else. Who cares? And that process never stops happening. I mean, the company that I did with some people after Netflix was a company called Looker. It was a business intelligence company. And when we started it, we go, this is going to be a lifestyle business. It's going to be all online. It's going to be self-service. It's going to be great. I'm great at that. I know how to sell on the web. Been doing that for years and years and years. And so we started the business that way. And what happened is pretty soon the company told the product, said, I don't want to be a self-service business. I'm not an end user product. I'm a corporate product. I'm not going to sell for $100 a month. I'm going to sell for $100,000 a month. So all of a sudden, now the business is one where it requires people carrying briefcases and visiting people in their offices. And I don't know shit about that. And so you quickly begin to realize I was the right person to get it going, but it wants to go a direction that I'm no longer skilled. And I've either got to learn or bring people in who do know those things. You've always evaluating, why me? Am I the right person for this? What's the best person to take this idea forward? And you never stop asking yourself that question.
That's great. That's great. So, Marc, I know your time is tight today, so I think we'll try to get to two more. This first question was sent in earlier today. I feel like this person can maybe see into the future a little bit. It's a quick yes or no question. This comes from Christian. Would you like to invest in my hair store?
No. I've given up on hair.
That's fantastic. And then maybe a better question.
Like a wise asses out there. Jesus.
Better question to end on. So much of what you talked about today, I think everyone's picking up on this, is working with other people, talking with other people, meeting other people. So, Marc, there's certain people who aren't so comfortable putting themselves out there. They're introverts. We got a question from Veronica earlier today. Any advice to help an introvert sort of break out a little bit, get into these networking circles, meet people? It's so vital to success as an entrepreneur.
So, I mean, it'd be disingenuous of me to give advice of how to start an introvert. I don't know. I've always been an extrovert. So it's one of those things you go, oh, it's easy. I know it's not easy. It's really hard. So I'm going to answer it a slightly different way, as is my style. Don't always answer the question. There's a real reasons why it's so wonderful sometimes to have a great co-founder, because they balance you. And even if it's not a co-founder thing, having people who balance you is hugely useful. For my entire professional career, I've always surrounded myself with people who did the things, could help me do the things that I was not strong at. I'm a pretty good idea guy. I'm a pretty good directional guy. I'm a terrible follow-through on details guy. And so it's always helped for me to have people I work with who are really good at that. And when you combine the two, it works. If you think about my relationship with my Netflix co-founder, Reed Hastings. I mean, Reed is an introvert. He's a mathematician. He's a computer scientist. He's very data-driven and very analytical. And I'm the opposite. I'm not that I'm not analytical and data driven, but I mean, I'm emotive. I'm really trying to be empathetic. I'm trying to feel how and guess how the things we do are going to be perceived by the public, things he's not good at. And you end up dividing responsibilities in a way that works. And when you have a great combination, it really is magic. So I'm not saying you should not make the effort to do more of the things that are required, but you can't make yourself into someone you're not. I mean, look at the relationship that Bill Gates had with Steve Ballmer. Bill Gates was extremely analytical, smart, brilliant business strategic thinker. How about that? And but he was not a rah kind of guy. He was not a salesy kind of guy. And he found a partner, Steve Ballmer, who was amazing at that. And for many years, that was this incredible dynamic duo. It happens all the time. So um, push yourself a little bit to be out there. And if you really are uncomfortable and realize you need this, find someone who balances your strengths.
I love it, and I hope I balance something for you, Mark, because I feel like I don't know. I'm like the dumb half of you or something like that.
We're a great team. We'll leave it at that, Dan. How about
Yeah,
that?
there we go. Well, Mark, so awesome stuff as always, and to everyone who joined in today. I know we're running a little shorter than usual, but we got to run today. But thank you so much for all the great questions, and just to piggyback off what Mark was just saying about meeting other people. Look at that chat group. There's a lot of great comments in there, a lot of smart people. So I would definitely encourage people to connect on there, right, Mark?
Absolutely. You can connect there. Also, if you're really entrepreneurially inclined and you're looking to interact with other entrepreneurs, find people who can help you to bounce ideas off of, you're welcome to apply to join the Neverland entrepreneurial community. There's a link to it on the screen right now. And it's basically a community of thousands of other early stage entrepreneurs. And all we do is talk about startups, entrepreneurship, and the challenges, the fun. It's a great place to connect if you are looking to help balance yourself and find some other skills. It's unfortunately it's not open to everybody. You have to apply to get in, but I can tell you're the kind of person we want. So go ahead. And
Fantastic.
listen, for all other things, Mark Randolph, you can come to markrandolph.com. You'll find links to the podcast. You'll find my blog. You can sign up to get my email list and get notified, most importantly, of future Ask Mark sessions. So you get more exposure to the brilliant, scintillating, comedic Dan Bova.
Well, thanks so much, Mark. Do all those things, people, and definitely check out that community. It's amazing. Uh, Mark is the amount of time and energy this man puts into helping other people. It's truly inspiring. So we're always so glad to have your thoughts. Thanks again for your questions. And Mark, say goodnight.
Well, so good night, everybody. And listen, thanks also to Entrepreneur Magazine and Entrepreneur for hosting all of this. Another amazing source and resource for entrepreneurial support. So between the two of us, you've got it covered. See y'all next time.